They got big egos, it's plain to see. I didn't leave the life left me.
Live chat or text, let me know if you can hear us okay. I am Tabasco. This is the Pain Train to my left, and this is Motorcycle Clubhouse Garage Therapy, where we talk about the life and share stories and such. So, what are we going to talk about today, Mr. Pain Train?
Well, I think based on everything that's going on in the world today, the popularity of shows like Sons of Anarchy, Wild Hogs, the new movie that just came out, I think it would be a good idea to talk a little bit about MC and civilian protocols on how to behave and how to act in public when you meet an individual, has to be from a motorcycle club, whether by himself or with his club brothers. I think it's a good idea of knowing how to react and respond.
Well, I think that also it's one thing I have a difference with is people go out when clubs are out, and some are decent dudes and approachable, and that's in every club, it's in every segment of society. But just because the club's there doesn't mean they got to be a bunch of assholes when they're out in public.
Absolutely.
But on the other hand, you don't know if you happen to be around the asshole club unless you know them. So, to save yourself a lot of grief on some, definitely the right and wrong way maybe to approach them. I was approached several times, even if I was out here on Shoreline at lunch, and sitting at the bar, and dude sitting next to me, and he's like, hey, can I ask you some questions? I said, you can ask me anything you want. I said, I may lie to you, I may not answer you at all. I said, but and that's how we end up gaining people to come back and to the clubhouse and donate some money and stuff and hang out with us, and we recruit.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest things to remember when you're dealing with anyone, whether it's a motorcycle club member or not, is they're people. They're human beings, very much like you. They probably have jobs, probably have families, wives, girlfriends, or kids, pay bills, have responsibilities. So they're not Martians. They're not aliens. They're human beings, just like we are, and we have good days and we have bad days, because you just mentioned that sometimes, unbeknownst to the individual, you may happen to be running up on a club that may not be the most friendly, and you don't know that. And especially to add to that, maybe they're having a bad day with their family, whatever the case may be. And if you walk up and just interrupt the conversation with a slap on the back or the famous comment I always loved, what do I have to do to join you guys?
Well, it's usually your gang. What do I do to join your gang?
Yeah.
And when I left when I hung my patch the last time, I went over to the mutual friends clubhouse. The first thing I said as a civilian, I walked in the door, I'm like, hey, is there some paperwork somewhere I can fill out to join your gang? And they're like, oh, fuck you, Tabasco. But yeah, I mean, and you always inevitably get that, I get the monitors too high. You get the drunk guy who they get nervous around you, and they don't really know how to act. I mean, not that they get an attitude necessarily, but they can. Right. And we had a young kid over at BT's that had come up and it's like, no matter where you park yourself, way out in the corner, to be by yourselves, your brothers always get some, drunk wandering up, wanting to join your gang. And, I just, politely tell them, be polite to them and stuff, but, give them some leeway, I guess, unless they're just out and out disrespecting. And I tell the story of a brother in Ohio who caught a felony for a fist fight, and that's what they do nowadays. You used to be able to go to it and rock them, sock them, and nobody really cared. But this local gangbanger who was a gangbanger, comes up, smacks one of our guys on the back, like, with his vest. But I mean, not egregiously. He didn't say, F you. He just said, hey, what's going on, man? And this particular brother took offense. Oh, you don't touch somebody's pet, blah, blah, put your, well, he didn't challenge him in front of his boys. The next thing you know, it turned into a melee. And they had our two guys outnumbered, who then went back to the clubhouse and brought about 15 guys over there. And I just lost. Oh, there you go. And then in that return trip, caught on camera, one guy got caught on camera and ended up, because they caught him on camera, they took it all the way through prosecution to a felony for a fist fight. So a fist fight will get you a felony. And that's ridiculous, man.
Oh, yeah.
But see, everybody is so programmed in society to dial 911. No one can handle their own situations anymore because they made it basically illegal to handle your own situation. Everybody's going to jump on the phone. I had said last week with Leisure that we had a situation happen in an intersection with another club where eight of their guys rolled up on two of ours, and it went to a scuffle over a camera that was in the road too. And long story short, before I even got the phone call about the situation, I was happened to be on Facebook and had saw two separate video shots of that incident, fight, from citizens I didn't even know. I mean, just friends of friends or whatever, and their commentary in the vehicle. That's how fast stuff in this day and age goes right on the internet, immediately. If it's not on a live stream already, crazy.
Oh, absolutely. And the funny thing about it is that the media propagates whatever Leo's version of the story is. And it's unfortunate because it usually always travels downhill to the motorcycle club. And that poor guy who maybe had one or two too many that night, it was just feeling himself a little bit, came over and tried to test the waters a little. Didn't probably mean any harm at all. Nonetheless, if you catch that member at the wrong moment in time, you can force a situation that really doesn't have to go that way into a bad position.
Well, and I've always said, pick your battles, man. Is it worth, what's up, Pritch? Is it worth it? Is it worth, catching a charge, even if it's something stupid like it was in this case? You might have to end up serving a weekend in jail. You may get, charged with domestic or something, whatever. Something they want to charge you. It's all about money. Let's say 3 weeks from now you got to go serve a weekend in jail because of that, and something breaks off with it. It's really important, and now you're not available because you're sitting there with some drunk dude and some bar fight, over something stupid. And I somehow have been able to function in most bars, except for the one we ran in Ohio, mostly, without even getting into any physical altercations. But yet we had guys down here that weren't past very long that couldn't go out to a bar without getting in this incident. I'm like, because you're a punk, because you're out there acting like a punk, and you're challenging people, and you don't know who, who's who out there.
Right.
In today's age, I want this running high. In today's age, I mean, a fist fight turns into a gunfight real quick because these people don't know how to fight. You can be right and you can still be unalive.
One of the things I'll be honest with you, I've never really had a problem with. I usually only have problems with people who try to insist that they're leaders in charge, and they voice that by their attitudes and how they care themselves. I myself, I've never had to, in my experience, have to tell people, "Hey, I'm in charge of this. I'm the boss." Because when you really are, people know it.
Well, Yeah, that's one thing that I completely forbade was don't ever address me in public
Yeah,
like
well,
that.
you definitely don't do that. That's just like if you're at war in the military, you don't salute your commanding officer on the battlefield. That's a
I
big
thought that was a
no-no.
Forrest Gump thing. He just said, "Don't salute me."
No, that's a true thing. That goes all the way back to the cowboys and Indians.
Well, and we had some guys that were like enforcers and stuff that would come. There's one in particular. He knows who he is, and I like to pick on him. Call him, "Where's his Batman belt?" So you got more shit hanging off your belt, and he's up north in Ohio, but he'll wear his exposed camera and turn his monitor down a little bit. All this shit hanging off of him. I said, you're the first guy that I would take out in a situation if I was on an opposing team because you're the one that's showing off all your shit.
I'm sure you had the flashlight, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, it was a big D battery mag light. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I sat in a clubhouse down here where there was a guy from another club who happened to stop by Haines City, and I was sitting there with the chapter boss, and I'm sitting on this side of the bar, and he's behind the bar, and there was another member who's, I think, the secretary, and the guy's probably talking above his pay grade, but he's like, I need to get this shit worked out between us, and he's somebody who had stopped there often, so they knew him, and I hadn't met him before, because I think I just basically gotten into the position I was, and I didn't say a word. I just sat there like grumpy bikers do when they don't want to talk, and just drank my beer and smoked my cigarettes. I let Baker talk to him, and he's like, I need to get a hold of your state boss. He goes, you can get a hold of your state boss, and Baker's like, well, I don't know. I think BJ might have been there, but before he came in, I said, don't you dare tell this guy who I am, and they didn't. And I said, Baker's like, well, what's on your mind? And he's again talking about his pay grade. And I'm just sitting there the whole time listening. And I was like, well, I said, he's the chapter boss. It'd be for him to let the state boss know. He's sitting right next to the state boss. He doesn't even know, and that's absolutely the way I wanted it. We would do that a lot with, when Mr. Black was out with us. We went to Gibtown, and first thing to do is LE wants to come right up to you because there was about 30 of us, and they come right up to the head of the spear, and who's in charge here, and our tattoo face down here, stepped right in front of Mr. Black. He's like, I am. What can I do for you? How can I help you? It's and that's exactly what he's supposed to do. He was a bottom rocker. He was a boss of the bottom rockers. He steps in. I'm in charge. What can I do for you? And just takes that heat. I love that. That when you don't know that. They have the decoys. I don't really love it in the, current White House when you can't finish. They fill him in with a mask. But yeah, you're right. I mean, and I tried to. It was, and maybe I am somewhat different. I've learned tolerance because as a younger man, I had none. Like patience, I have tons of that though. But in abundance. But I would rather that somebody come away from meeting one of us and say, man, those guys are really cool. I met so-and-so from such and such, and man, those fuckers are really cool, man. He invited me to his clubhouse or give me that's how you recruit. And that's how you meet friends, rather than them having, I met so-and-so, and they're just a total asshole, which happens a lot, but hell, I don't know. And inherently, what's going to happen because of the movie that just came out there, I did happen to see it this weekend, but I already had the book 20 years ago, and I know the whole story. Well, the real story anyway. But is you're going to have a lot of pop-ups. And like the song that I had written that was the Garage MC, 10 guys are, get together and they're going to buy their shit off Amazon and now we're a motorcycle club. I mean, that's dangerous. I mean, it can be because they don't know what they're doing, and they go into arid territories of people of clubs who've had that territory for decades and decades and decades, right. And it may even be the right color of clothing that they're wearing, and you know what that turns into.
Oh yeah.
I mean, but these guys do it all the time. When the SOA first came out, I mean, I never really got into it. I just didn't watch TV anyway. I really don't like the shows that like to be continued type situations anyway. Plus we were out riding all the time. But it did cause a tremendous,
Oh yeah.
and I'm wondering if it will now or not. I don't know. This movie.
I don't know, man. It could possibly do the exact same thing, or now people, because of the SOA, people think they know now, so it might not do anything.
Well, and a lot of it, yeah, is that they didn't, you know, I would encourage people to find a club that's local, that's been in existence for a long time. If you're serious about being in a club, and join them, make them better. I said, find a club. It could be anything from, whatever. I don't care. It could be Baca. It could be a riding club. It could be a Eagles Ambas. It could be what's that, Legion Riders,
Legion,
or it could be
Iowa.
a RC, or even an MC, or a 3 piece. I mean, you're going to go to the 1% life. You're talking a whole different situation. That's, I mean, it's different than when back in the black and white days when you came up.
Oh yeah.
And we can say that it was harder, and I often say that about everything. Was it harder to do this, or was it harder to advertise or start a business, or was it harder to be an MC back then, or was it easier because they don't have all the electronics and the cameras? It's always difficult in the time you're in when you're going to stand out. You know what I mean?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because initially, maybe a few years ago, I might have said to you that it was much easier now than it was back when I was coming up. But I believe I'm turning a corner on that, because back then, when I was young, um, that was just the way things were. That was society's norm. You you walked with integrity. You walked with loyalty. You walked with honesty and honor. Um, well, in our nation today, you can look around at the entire leadership of the country and see a total shift in mentality for a generation.
What do you mean?
I'm saying all the things that used to be second nature that our parents brought us up under. Man, my father was a D-Day veteran.
Right.
So he has standards that had to be met in our home, and I grew up like that.
It's weird too that the but for some reason that generation wasn't brought that way. I mean, I can speak from experience because I had 3 kids and I had custody of them from 7, 10, and 14. And I was a single parent at like 7, 10, and like 16. And I finished raising all 3 of those kids with Mrs. Tabasco's help. But when we got together, but they all like me and they aren't like me. I mean, the one in California's got a master's degree, but he bought a motorcycle, got stolen in Oakland. I know who did it. I know who did it in Oakland, California. But
yeah, we
did.
did.
Honda Rebel. If they did it to hang it from a tree so they could beat it with a baseball bats. But but the other one's more like me and his carefree style, Weasel. But and so I don't know. But I did raise them all to be decent human beings. That's all we can really shoot for, But yeah, I don't know where the disconnect came. Is that we had it? Did we have it so hard? You're not Gen X, are you? You're
no,
before.
Baby boomer.
You're Brady Bunch. Oh, Greg's Brady Bunch. But no, they maybe because we didn't have it easy, that we made it easier on them somewhat. But I didn't. I mean, they had to get a job. They had to get their driver's license.
I think it's this thing that your parents told you and mine told me, is that all parents always wanted their kids to have it better than that they had.
Yeah.
So yeah, you might not. Maybe you had an unconventional lifestyle, but your overall values and the things that you taught them, honesty, integrity, loyalty, being stand up, you taught that, and you taught it very clearly, and that transcends generational um, differences, I believe.
Well, right, and you, it's very rare to find young men that join the MC anymore. Although I know one in particular that does very well at that. They have a lot of young bucks, man. And I don't know how. It's more of a cultural thing, I guess. But we, if you get a hold of a young man who's really worth his salt, either came from another generation of biker or a clubber, or it's a rare occasion, and so it does get harder and harder to continue to backfill as people age out. You know.
Well, you have to do that, or you run into clubs that, and of course, we don't mention the names, but I'll just simply say that tap in to an individual's machismo, if you understand what I'm saying. And they really do a good job at bringing that out.
Well, and I mean, I know one club I mentioned last week too was that the Road Saints, because they're not even a club anymore. And I wish when we had done the Dead, we would have done Road Saints to keep them still alive, because they were at one chapter, and they never really were bigger than Central Ohio. But that's where Indian came from, and people that my dad was good friends with, and they aged out because they had one small chapter, and so they had one person. I don't know how it worked with them, but they had a person who was the forever boss or whatever, at least until he couldn't be. But in the end, they couldn't recruit and they couldn't keep any numbers. And I wish we would have taken the Dead that way, because that way it would have kept that patch alive. But I see multiple ones around here that, and here's the hard part. I mean, I would definitely take quality over quantity every day of the week, as you would. But on the other hand, you can't do a whole lot if you want to grow and expand. But as I wrote in the article for this month on ours, was that do you need to? We're all driven to grow and to procreate and to whatever. So in the club, I built Clubhouse. Maybe that wasn't the right thing to do. You think it is inherently, but I've heard a club in New York. I guess they are bigger than I thought, but I thought they were in Manhattan, and there's one. But there were some hard hitting, MFs.
Very familiar.
But I think they may have more than just that one, because I've heard. But at the time, that's what I heard. And is that okay too? Is it okay? When I take 12 guys in my M1 crew, then then to have 50 guys that are going to stand up for you when you stand up for them and you risk your life for them.
Yeah, I've heard rumors of those boys actually coming as far south as Florida.
Well, yeah, I did too. It's just, like I said, really surprised me, because I had heard they were only in like Manhattan or something.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to figure out what we do this, how to highlight this, or how to share this on TikTok. I shared it on Facebook, but turn off live.
But I think that when you run into, if you're a local establishment, or maybe at a park with your kids and a barbecue, and you run into a guy or a group of guys, or with a motorcycle club, just keep in mind that they're people just like you. They have jobs, having families, and when you maybe you're a biker too, and you're interested, and you like to strike up a conversation with them. You just be yourself.
Well, a lot of what you get, people will ask, and you'll see it in forums. How do I find the local dominant club? And most people must be way on the outside, because if they don't even know anybody that's knows anybody that's in that, then they're a biker. Doesn't mean that they wouldn't be a good club brother. It means that and people tell them. I mean, you have to risk it and just go up and walk up to one and shake, put your hand out, introduce yourself, and say, I'm interested, and just be straightforward and honest. I'm really interested in the club thing, but I don't know much about it. Just be straightforward. Don't try to be cool. They'll see right through that. Just say, I'm interested in the club life. I don't know much about it. I would be like to learn. Is there anybody I could talk to about that at some point, or maybe, get with? And that guy is either going to be the right guy, or he's going to be the grumpy guy, and he may tell you, go fuck off. which is more than likely. Then if that's the case, then go fuck off over there, But don't give up on it,
Well, I think what you just said probably is the better way to handle a situation like that one-on-one. If you're in a place by yourself and you see someone like that, the wrong way to handle that would be just to slap on a embroidered patch that grandma made you and start riding to the local bike night. Because if you do that, rest assured that the not dominant club around, they will find you. You don't have to worry about finding them.
Yeah, I look back now when I first started riding out, and really, I mean, I've been around the club my whole life. I hadn't really stayed in touch when I was raising the kids regularly, and especially not with any specific club. But once I did pick up with Jay, who was inviting me down to the clubhouse and stuff, and I wasn't always going down there. It was 45 minutes away, but I would go to the Quaker Steak Bike Night. So I had I had a vest, a riding vest I wore, because that's what you do. And now I look back at it, and I'm glad I don't have it, because I'd laugh at myself. I have to give myself a black eye. I mean, you have all the patches, these are my church clothes and shit like that. You know what the fuck you're talking about. Yeah. And that's what's funny. I mean, most of the 1%ers that I rode with have a level, especially the leaders, have a level of maturity when in public or when out. People will get all bent out of shape. Well, I don't wave it, but I don't give the two fingers. Cameras over here. I don't give the two fingers. They're too cool for a school. Whatever, man. The guys I rode behind and rode with and beside that were 1%ers. We were going through a small town on the way to like Ohio Bike Week and whatever. Kids love motorcycles. They'd rev the engine if they're beside them, or they'd wave, and they might even be talking. But you always see them throw a hand. They're not trying to be a dick to everybody. And the ones that are the ones that most likely, in my opinion, in a lot of cases, and not all cases, they ain't going to make it anyway, because the patch is making them. It's very clear the patch is making you. You're not making the patch.
Yeah,
you're not filling it with your personality. You're allowing it to give you some sort of a whatever.
That's exactly right, man.
Yeah.
And let's be honest. You want complete honesty? Let's have it. When you ride with an organization like that, and you go to a town, kind of like what you mentioned, and there are kids and families around, they are awe-inspired. They're enamored by the lifestyle that we're representing.
Yeah,
and they want to have part of that. It makes you feel like a celebrity straight out of Hollywood. And you have to have a certain mentality to handle that, because if not, you're going to be the jerk, like you just mentioned, who never signs autographs. Not that I recommend signing autographs, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That kind of mentality. Whereas you might see the little kid who's kind of like hid in the window, pumping his arm up and down to the trucker to get him to honk the horn.
Yeah.
We'll rev up the throttle for that kid.
Yeah.
Because that kid might not ever forget that and grow up and be a club brother one day. You don't know.
Right.
The impact that you can have for the good or for the bad.
Well, and I know at least two former club members that both said that, their whole lives, they wanted to be in a club. I mean, they said that the coolest thing they saw, and both men are between, 60, actually, they're both over 60, but they said that they can still remember the first time they saw, a club go through their small hometown, and just how, and never, it was an impression that was never left them, and they just always wanted to be in a bike club. Unfortunately, sometimes our dreams become reality. They're not exactly what we thought they were.
In the club life, you get one shot to prove that you're a man. One shot to be the best you can. One shot to show that you are real.